All right. Well, welcome, Taylor. I'm excited to have you. We're at the Hard Money Podcast with Dutch Mendenhall. This is Taylor Kovar, everybody. I'm excited for him to be able to share so much with you guys today because he's one of those guys that we're so similar in the sense that he just loves business, right? He loves making money. He loves helping people. Family guy, Christian. All of those great things that like. It's hard to, as a dad, to want to be Superman, right? When it comes to business and those kind of things, and yet, I like have this image of what that's like in my life, right? And so today we're going to share a lot of different things, but Taylor, share with everybody, just a quick little bit about yourself, and I'll more of as a person, I'll give the cool business stuff, right? You own a healthcare company, you freaking wealth management, and one of the real reasons I brought Taylor on today is because of themoneycouple.com, and that's a interesting, fascinating business that I followed for years and years because my wife and I believed in the 5 love languages, and then there was the 5 money languages, and I think healthy marriage, healthy wife, healthy life, is so important to me. And so, he's not just somebody who talks about it though, which I think a lot of people who talk about how you should live your life, right, don't necessarily live their life that way, or people who tell you how you should be exceptional when it comes to money actually don't have money, right, or haven't built wealth. And so you've done those things, and it's real, and that's important to me because, like, for me, how do we help everybody separate from the noise that's out there from what's real? So I'm gonna hand it back to you, Taylor, but what's real about you, brother?
Yeah, no, man. Thanks for having me on. So a little bit about me personally. So I grew up in a town where there was more cows than people. So Moscow, Texas, not Moscow, Moscow. Literally like 250 people. Grew up on a farm in a house that used to be a barn. I mean, like if you can imagine East Texas redneck country, mile long dirt road to my house, right? That's how I grew up. Parents were blue collar, literally lived paycheck to paycheck, right? If they cut overtime hours at the mill, we were struggling. And so that's how I was raised. I have 2 older siblings, a younger sibling, and then my parents actually adopted 5 kids when I was a teenager, which was really awesome. So that's a big part of our story. Ended up met my now wife when I was in junior high at church camp, right? And for some reason we never broke up. She doesn't know the reason. I always just tell everybody like she's way hotter than I am, and so I'm definitely the reacher in the relationship. So, hey, when you find something good, you don't let go of it, right? So, but no, we've had a great relationship. Ended up getting married fairly young, and you would think we knew everything about each other, right? Being dating for 7-8 years, ended up our first couple of years we were fighting like cats and dogs. About to divorce by our second wedding anniversary, and found some good resources and turned it around, and now we're out trying to help other couples, achieve the lifestyle and the marriage that they can, and successful marriages, and and having successful lives. Through our wealth management practice, we deal with a lot of pretty wealthy and affluent people. And I tell everybody, like, hey, I meet with these people every day. Money doesn't make you happy, right? So there's other things out there in life that make you happy. And a lot of that goes back to family and children and what you're doing for others. But yeah, so I've got 3 kids. I've got a boy named Kix, who's 9, girl named Cambry, who's 6, and a little girl named Kesley, who's 3. And they all have me wrapped around their finger. I love being a dad, love being a husband, and, excited about how we can kind of help change the world and help others. So, yeah.
So your oldest son's name is Kix.
Just like the cereal, Kix. Yeah.
My gosh, man. So like you just decided when you named your son, you were going to have a ball full of trouble and a ball full of energy, just guaranteed with that.
Oh yeah. And he kicked like crazy in the womb, right? So and so he's a great kid. I actually want to name him Cowboy because I wanted a cool weird name. And if you're named Cowboy out there, I'm sorry, but I love the name, right? I think it's really awesome. And my wife was like, you got to find something else. And so anyway, we settled. I don't know where the name came from. We settled on it, and it fits him good. So yeah,
that's pretty funny. My wife and I, we got married a little bit later in life, right? So we were 30 when we got married, and we thought we had like some of those conversations out of the way, right? And it's fascinating because it's a lot harder to get married at 20, in my opinion, right? Or younger, or even around that age, because I have a nephew who's going to get married in 2 months and he's 20. And I think to make it through, to be married at that age and then with kids, right? It's fascinating because that's a very difficult thing because there's just so much unknown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For you guys, was money a constant topic, or is it just like in the beginning, was it just flat out survival?
I mean, it was a constant topic because it was survival. So I tell everybody the way I was raised, like I said, blue collar, paycheck, paycheck. And so, I started working right at 16 and got my first like big boy job, I guess at like 18, working at a plywood mill, of course. Right. And, I thought I was this hot shot, right. Was making good money, went and bought a brand new car to impress this girl I've already been dating for 5 years. Right. Should have known better. And literally she's like, so we're getting married. You want to marry me in a few years and you just go buy a brand new car? Like, cool. That's not how I was raised. Like her dad drove the same vehicle for 20 years, right? Her mom, and so it was a very much a big struggle with us initially because I was used to kind of like, just blowing and going when we got married. And she's very much, she likes safety and security. And so we had a lot of conversations. We actually kept like a checkbook and a check registry book for years. And so they're really fun to go back and look through. And we're tracking like 47-cent gum purchases right at the convenience store. And it's like, we lose 47 cents now, in the HEB parking lot. So, but yeah, it was a lot of conversations about money.
It's funny how the dynamic, goes, you go through these phases in life. Like I think of the Will Smith movie, Pursuit of Happiness, right?
Yeah.
And he has like during that movie, he has this is this phase of my life, and this is this phase of my life, and this is this phase of my life. And so, I think of that as you were, growing with your wife from a money standpoint, right? It's always hard for my wife because I'm a flyer risk taker, right? And so we're sharing with all of you like a way for you guys to it's kind of a cool self assessment tool, right? To understand your own personality codes. But so basically that means like the worst thing in the world for me is to have an argument about money, right? Like I love to take risk, right? It's the funnest,
Yeah.
most that's why I love business, right? Because for me, every next decision in business is the next adventure, right? And so my wife always thought she was what we call saver security seeker, right?
Yeah.
And I said, there's no way that you're both of them because there's no way you could be married to me if that was both your personality. She ended up being like a security seeker, risk taker, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Just because I told her, I was like, being married to me, it'd be really hard not to be a risk taker, and not go completely bananas. So what was your guys's when you guys?
Yeah. Yeah. So we do have pretty rough opposite dynamics. I am a spender risk taker, right? Business, and I'm always jumping from this business to, hey, there's an opportunity, let's jump on it, right? My wife is a saver security seeker. So it took us a lot of conversations to figure out what really works and how we approach money in those conversations. It took me a while to, instead of having every idea I have, right, as a business owner, you're always looking at opportunities and seeing things. And I'd come home like, hey, look, we're going to start this business or we're going to jump on this. And, a lot of it I hadn't really thought all the way through. And so it took a while for me to figure out, okay, I need to approach her at this time, like once I've thought it out, once I kind of have a game plan, right, or whatever. But yeah, we still have pretty routine conversations because our money dynamics are clashing. But we've worked it out pretty well so far.
It must have been a lot of prayer for her during those.
Lot of prayer. Yes. If you're not a prayer warrior, marry somebody with literally complete opposite dynamics of you. Yeah. And so, of course, as teenagers, we had no idea any of this, right? We were just out having fun and, had no idea. But, oh yeah, you put a ring on it and you'll see like, hey, we share the same checking account now. So, yeah. It's been an interesting ride, but fortunately, we're very big on being on the same team. We tell people once you're married, like we believe kind of in marriage for life kind of situations, and so you're on the same team. And so even if you don't like the third baseman, you're still killing him to stop the ball, right? And so and when it's time for the double play, you're hoping that they're going to catch it. You're not purposely trying to hurt them or make them lose, because if they lose, you lose. And that's a really big thing that we talk about a lot is you're on the same team. And we have to remind ourselves of that every now and then. So,
yeah. During life, I love like epiphanies, right? Like when you have those moments, those clear moments. Obviously, there's things that just kind of become a part of who you are. But I remember sitting in church and watching the pastor and his wife, and they were talking about, that life conversation, right? It's for life.
Yeah.
And they said, there's funny thing when you make a commitment or a decision that a marriage is for life, then at the end of the day, like the argument has to end, right? Because
Yeah.
it's for life, right? And if there was
Yep.
a way out, then the argument doesn't have to end. And so that was, I remember sitting there the day and like, you know, I think we were maybe engaged at that time, right? But adopting that mindset, even though, everybody says marriage is for life, unless you like own it, it's a little bit different.
It
It's like
is.
it's a really different kind of feeling. So
Yeah,
when
in those conversations, you're always like, "Well, hey, listen, like, can we go ahead and just stop being mad? Because I mean, like, we're gonna stop being mad at some point. Like, can we just go ahead and get past that part?" And yeah, but yeah, we're big on for life. So, anyways,
cool, cool. I think I don't talk a lot about on the podcast. Faith doesn't come up, all the time and different things, right? But I think it's when it comes to marriage and it comes to the conversation about money and understanding, I think one of the things that is very difficult for people is that relationship, and it's almost like the darkness of money, right? And I think like over the years I've seen people who don't have that healthy, like a healthy positive, like obviously for me it's easy, I'm a flyer, right? So the healthy positive relationship with money is kind of like automatic. I remember like my high school sweetheart, like I remember we are getting ready to move to California, and I remember like she's like, so like, are you gonna get a job this summer, or like are you gonna put away money or different things? And I'm just kind of like, I got this, like it's easy for me, right?
it'll work out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, some reason that relationship didn't work out, right? Because I didn't understand money personality types for sure.
Yeah.
But talk about that a little bit, right? That part of money where people have that, like almost like that unhealthy version of it, right?
Yeah, and we see that a lot. I mean, almost every day. And I tell people I really should go back to school and get like a counseling degree, because when we bring couples into the office, I tell them, like, we do financial planning, but when we're in a meeting with a couple, it's almost always a straight counseling, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're dealing with all these different money dynamics, and a lot of people put money on this pedestal of, hey, as long, if I just made $2 more an hour, right? Or if I had married rich, or and rich is relative, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of put on this pedestal, if we can achieve that, right? If we can achieve that, $20,000 in the savings account, or $1 million in the IRA, that we're gonna be happy, that everything's gonna be great and wonderful. And it's just not. We kind of forget that it's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Money is a tool to be used, and it's just a very small part of life. And so that's a lot of what we talk about, is getting people to realize, if you're not happy making the current amount you are, right, and definitely you can strive for more and greater, but if you can't find yourself in how to be happy in your current circumstance, winning the lottery is not going to get it there, right? It's gonna expose those even more. And so that is a very hard topic of really kind of give people that mindset, because growing up, it's all about, I'm gonna be a millionaire, I'm gonna be a millionaire, I'm gonna be a millionaire. It's gonna solve everything, and it doesn't. So yeah.
It's funny, that conversation that I'm going to be a millionaire. So my older brother has 7 kids, and as kids, as we grew up, because my parents, I ended up living on my own at 16. My parents passed away, my dad when I was 18, my mom when I was 20, and they're very unhealthy addicts and different things. And so as we grew up, I was always saying, like, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to work way up, work in a corporation, I'm going to work for a company, I'm going to be consistent, constant, I'm going to be secure, right? And my older brother was always like, I'm going to go conquer the world, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur and different things. And then, in our 20s, when I got done coaching baseball, I never had a job, right? Again, for the rest of my life. And my brother, always had a corporate gig, making, decent money and
Yeah.
living a decent life and different things. And now it only took me, 12 years as a business owner and entrepreneur to finally get him to come on board and join what we do
Nice.
and different things.
Yeah.
But it's one of the greatest gifts I could ever give, I think, is to give him, that freedom and stuff. But, for me, it's funny, we had the opposite though, right? From what we always said we were going to be.
Yeah.
Growing up as kids. Did you see yourself as an entrepreneur growing up?
I didn't like, I thought kind of as I thought I was be a professional baseball player. And then I grew up and, didn't get over 5'7", 5'8", 5'8", with my cowboy boots on. And just didn't work out, right? I'm not very athletic. Don't laugh. Sorry, my team's back here. And so that didn't really work out for me. But no, I mean, growing up, I didn't think so. I really didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I had big dreams. And so I kind of took every job I had as like, every job I had, I was an owner in it, right? I took real big ownership, but I also got really bored really quickly. So I worked at McDonald's and Sloshki's and United, UPS, right? What can Brown do for you? And every job I had, I took ownership, but these companies are major corporations. So when you bring an idea to the table, it doesn't just get implemented. And so it took a little while for me to find my entrepreneurial spirit or realize this is what I really wanted to do. But once I did, I looked back and realized, okay, well, yeah, I was that kid in fourth grade selling, the pencils, right? And going to Sam's and buying, candy and reselling it out of my locker, right? So like looking back, I can see a lot of the tendencies, but I really didn't know growing up really what I wanted to do. I didn't really get really interested in money until I bought that car and realized I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what any of this stuff is. And that really kind of got me on the path as far as investments and money management wasn't really until I was almost 20 years old. So, yeah.
I think I was kind of always that way too. I remember like as a kid, the fundraisers all the time. Right. And I remember, and always careful when you say different things with the way the world is with cancel culture, right? So
Yes.
the little girls who would get their parents and they would sell every single time and win every single contest. I just got to a point in time where I just wanted to smash sales from in elementary schools. I remember going door to door and selling, right, for a fundraiser. And I remember my parents being so pissed as they went back to the school for the second full pickup truck load of fundraiser stuff so that I could win that contest, right?
Yeah.
And there's like my dad had told me it was 4 miles from our house I had gone. It continued to walk and continued to go every afternoon. Obviously, when you're in elementary school, times are very different. They don't let kids do that anymore. But I think throughout life, right? When I was coaching baseball, I remember University of San Francisco, I suddenly started like event valet parking for special events. And then I ran a concession stand, and then I started running private lessons. And then like just all of these different entrepreneurial things all of the time. But yeah, that boredom is crazy because that boredom can turn into like dysfunction, right? I always say when like anything that you have a tendency that's bad, right? When you suddenly have money can turn into an addiction. Right?
Oh yeah. Big time.
And yeah. Like if you're a collector of something or no matter what it is, right? It can be a positive addiction too, but it's just, it's interesting as you grow and stuff. Baseball. So generational, right? I talk about generational wealth a lot of times, right? Yeah. But the one thing I'm trying to teach my wife is about generational baseball knowledge. So with my 5-year-olds, right? So I'm trying to train them on a regular, really most of the time I'm just trying to have fun with them, but because I tried to share with her, like we know, like we're going to build generational wealth and try to give generational knowledge to our kids. But I try to tell her, like, I coached college baseball, I played college baseball, and she, they never did really formalize sports in her family. Right. So her concept of me taking the 5-year-olds and doing baseball practice with them twice a week is very weird and very, very, very foreign to her. Did you have, I've always think like in my business over the years, like generations, right? Like this was a generational leap or this was a generational gap or did you have much generational knowledge passed down entrepreneurially?
Not entrepreneurially. My grandpa had his own little mechanic shop, but my parents, neither one really had their own business. My mom ran like a home daycare for a little while, but they were really just big on. They always work for other people, but they were really big on keeping priorities straight, right? And we treat people the way we want to be treated, and we try to provide opportunities where we can, and helping others. And that was really the I learned a lot about just helping others. And so my dad was involved in a lot of different activities in our little community, and it wasn't uncommon for my parents to go and buy groceries for a family or to give them literally the shirt off their back, right, to help out, and that kind of driving force of seeing all the good that came from my parents who could not afford me, literally lived paycheck to paycheck, right? They couldn't afford it, but yet their bills were always paid. We always had food. We were always taken care of. And it came from really, it's better to give than to receive. And that's really what they passed on to us. And so once, as I was getting older, that really led me to more of, hey, there's more. I did get on a path for a while, like money's king, like let's make money, right, and do all of this. But it quickly became, hey, this isn't the way I want life to be. And once I reverted back to, hey, it's better to give than to receive, and to create opportunities for other people, and really be a light, right, in the world, is when I started seeing probably the majority of our success. And so entrepreneurially, no, learned most of it just from meeting other people and talking with other business owners. Once I realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I would drive around town and look at billboards and call them and be like, "Hey, man, like I want to start a business one day. Can I come buy you a cup of coffee, or can I just come pile up and pick your brain?" And so I did that a lot in my early 20s, late teens, and that really kind of shaped a lot of what I do. Right now, I met a wide variety of guys who some were, I thought, top notch, and some who are like, man, you really inherited this business because you're an idiot. And so, I've been really blessed to kind of learn from a lot of really good people. So, yeah.
Like TV creates such a interesting view of like the entrepreneur, right? I don't know if you've ever watched Billions or you ever watched Yellowstone, right?
Yeah.
Either one of those?
I don't watch either of those, or haven't. But I mean, there's plenty of other shows that
lots of times they'll like show, battles and fights and wars and like the greed side of it, and I think I think that's just such a common mistake. Like I was driving in to the office today, and I was talking with one of our team members, right? And talking about the difference between like entrepreneurs who hate their employees, right? And entrepreneurs who love their employees, right? And the different concepts. And I think that fascinating dynamic, but I wonder, as a person out there, like, is that, a thought, right? Are you engaged in something where you're a part of something where it's positive, or is it, something that is just exists, and I think I have to be involved in something that is building, growing, impacting. Otherwise, like that cloud, or that for me, when that cloud seeps in, it's laziness, right? Like if it's not passion, then it turns into lazy for me. I don't know. What is it for you? Like when you're running and stuff, and do you recognize it when it starts to come?
Yeah. I'm not gonna say I don't ever get burned out, right? But it is, I have to get away to the beach, like, I don't know, once a quarter, once every 6 months. So COVID really threw me for a loop, right? Because that's kind of my getaway. Is I enjoy business, right? I enjoy a lot about business, and we're very big on our culture here. So I always want to build a place of business where I would want to work, right? Where your voice is heard, and where like one of my favorite quotes in the office, or they keep saying they need to get me a shirt that says it. They bring an idea, I'm like, run with it, right? Like run with it, like, hey, like, there's no red tape. Run with it. Let's just see what happens. But yeah, my big thing is I've got to get away to the beach every few months and just pile up and relax for a few days. But even then, I'm on my computer working. But I have the ocean in front of me, which really just kind of helps, right? But yeah, I get a tendency every now and then to just like try to zone out and be out of the office for a little while. But overall, I enjoy what I do, and we hire really good people, and I enjoy being around them. And so, they say, you never work a day in your life if you're doing what you enjoy. And honestly, I just enjoy it. And even though we've gotten into a bunch of different businesses and industries, it's all stuff we enjoy. And if we get a little bit down the road and realize this isn't fun, like, I don't care. Somebody else can make money with it. It's just not fun for us. So we'll drop things like that. But overall, we really are pretty passionate about what we do. So, yeah.
Cool, man. What's something that, like, over the years, like as you look at entrepreneurial business, right, that you had this view of what entrepreneurial life would be like, right? But now that you've lived an entrepreneurial life a decade later, right? And like, what is the biggest thing that like is different than what you thought it was going to be?
I mean, I definitely always, like the TV show may show, you're the boss, right? You're the king. What you say goes. If you want to work, work. If you don't, whatever, right? And work is really more of the social parties, right? And I didn't quite realize it until I was in the muck of it, that, hey, I'm putting in, 150 hours a week, right? Or whatever is humanly possible. And that it just never stops. And I think that's one of the big differences between like, myself as an entrepreneur, and I have some friends who, work, other jobs, is they don't realize like it just never stops. It, even when you're at home playing with the kids, whatever, in the back of your mind, there's still all these families that are counting on you for a paycheck, or, these other investors who are counting on you. And so there's always that stress that's always there. And that's what I tell some of the guys that I mentors. It is great. There's a lot of lucrative rewards. I love being an entrepreneur. I wouldn't trade it. But at the same time, there is a risk and reward as far as it goes with kind of mental capacity of, it's just, it never shuts off. And so, yeah.
For me, there's a weight, right, with the families, that I didn't understand when I thought about entrepreneurialism. But I think this year with COVID, the weight of families, right, was more real to me than I think it maybe ever has been. I just, understanding, like we had a wave come through our offices, right, with our team and stuff, and it was literally just like one meeting, right, where it happened to be someone happened to have it, and it just, we ended up with, I think, total of throughout the company like 6 people that had it, and so then I started thinking about their kids, and and their kids got it, and it was, thank God we made it through without any major, lifelong, challenges from it. But like the weight of that was pretty serious. And then, I was during Christmas time, this last year, I was thinking, like, man, I want to give the best bonuses in the history of our business. It was like a mission for me to get the best, bonuses out to our team and our people that we've, had ever been able to get out and stuff. But like, yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting weight when you pay attention to it, right? When you're not paying attention to it, it's still there, but suddenly like COVID for me made it a little bit more real for me. Like with COVID this year, like what are things that have come up?
Yes, I mean, a lot of that weight is definitely prevalent, right? And so COVID itself, our business, when I got into business, so I'll kick back a little bit. When I was in my early 20s, I sat down one day and I was like, man, why am I even working? Like what am I working toward? What I really want out of life, right? And before I even started the entrepreneurial journey. And so, one of my goals was I want to be able to travel pretty extensively with my family, right? And so from the very get-go, every employee always got a laptop and an internet-based phone, right? So like, it doesn't matter what it may happen. And so when COVID hit last March, I told everybody, hey, like, make sure you take your laptop and your monitor home, right? And hopefully we'll see you Monday, but if not, like, we'll see you when we see you.
6 months.
Yeah. And so luckily we were in a pretty good situation to where, people didn't really lose time. And we had one employee who had spotty internet at home. And, but other than that, everybody just kind of picked back up. Right. And Monday morning, we didn't lose a whole lot of time and kind of really worked through. We've had some employees with COVID and it's made its way through our offices from time to time. We have some right now, some of our leadership team have it. But for us, that way of employee care, right, really does kick home. And just like a month and a half ago, we had a really huge ice storm here in Texas, and we have 200 and something employees spread across the state, and it affected all of them. I mean, we had our business shut down overnight for a week as people lost electricity, they lost water, and the businessman side of me is like, listen, I'm paying you, like I need them hours, right? And then the human side of me is like, man, these people are struggling. We had roofs falling in and people's ceilings caving in because of water leaks. And, some of them life and death type situations where they're spending 3 days in 20-degree houses, right? And water's freezing in their toilets. And the business side is like, hey, but we still have a business to operate, right? We still got to answer the phones. We have this. And at the end of the day, we just decided as leadership was like, hey, I don't want people having to also worry about finances. So listen, we're paying everybody for the full week. If you can help be on the phones, great. If not, like, just take care of you and your family. And that's, those are hard decisions as a business owner because you sit there and look at, rate of return and all the other things that go into that. But at the end of the day, we're here for families. We're here to make families stronger. And at some time you have to lead by example. And that to me is really big. I tell everybody one of our mottos is set the example. I can't preach people first if we're not putting people first. So, yeah.
It was interesting. Like when there's a lot of our marketing and advertising team that went down was not completely just them, but a good portion of it that went down with it. And it was kind of like I trying to figure out when can I ask them to push again, right? When can I ask them to perform, right? And I want to
Yeah.
be like I want to be understanding and I want to be compassionate about what they've been through or what their families are going through, right? But like as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you never stop. Like I literally could be like on my deathbed and I'm going to be thinking about like what the next campaign is or what the next investment is or what the next, because we went through, we have a good portfolio in Texas. And so we went through a lot of ice, a
Yeah.
lot of broken pipes and a lot of different things. Right. And so, but at the same time, it's just kind of like finding that understanding balance and then the ability to push at the same time. I mean, the
Yeah.
great part though is when I find with my people, like when you're loyal to them and you're providing to them, right? And you got their back the way you should with the people that work for you. I find that when the weird happens, right? That that or the awkward happens, because that's literally an awkward conversation, right? It's
Yeah.
almost sometimes even like when people ask for raises, right? It's like I want to be able to give to them and I want to be able to have a positive conversation, but and sometimes that's not just giving exactly what they want, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like those awkward moments of figuring out as an entrepreneur how to navigate through those
Yeah,
pieces.
and
So
there's nobody there to tell you. Like there's no just, hey man, hey, can I can I get the information from you? Like no, it's the answer lies with you. And so yeah, it's
yeah, it's
crazy.
funny. I used to have a business partner for years that could have none of those conversations. So
Hmm.
he literally couldn't engage in a single, like it just it was rough, really rough for him
Oh
for
yeah.
years. I remember we went through one of the most difficult days of my life was um we ran as a consulting firm for years and years before we did our own education and our own training and those kind of things. And so we had a big client that let us go. They hired a new CEO on a Monday, and on a Tuesday, he let go of us as a consulting firm. But we had 22 employees that worked on their account and the things that did for them. And so the next day, I let go of 22 people, and
Oh
and that was one of the most difficult days of my life. And I remember he literally didn't come into work for like a week. Like he just couldn't even,
yeah.
for him, that's that weight. That's that part of the entrepreneurial, that entrepreneurial journey is you have to be able to willing to engage in those both. I think a lot of people don't see that tough side of it, if they've never walked into the unknown. I always say as an entrepreneur, one of the most important abilities is to be able to walk into the unknown,
Yeah.
right? And step past that threshold of what's norm or what's comfortable or what's known in order to grow. When you guys decided to take on the money couple, right?
Yeah.
And you've run businesses and you've run successful businesses, right? But running an info thought leadership business is very different. I've done it my whole adult life or consulted those types of companies my whole adult life. So I'm kind of like, this is what I grew up in. So I'm fascinated is what did you think, you were taking on when you decided that the money couple something we want to be responsible to the world for?
Yeah. So we have ran several businesses and like I said, our finance, our investment firm, a lot of it is counseling and talking with couples and, a lot of marriage counseling basically within the financial planning process. And so we had been followers of Scott and Bethany and the Money Couple for a while, and saw they put out a lot of great content, a lot of good stuff. But it was definitely more. Sometimes it would be really heavy, and then other times it wouldn't be. And so when the opportunity came for us to have a conversation with them about potentially acquiring the brand and all of everything that goes with it, it was one of those of, hey, I sat down to my wife, and my wife's much more, she's kind of introverted. We're much more introverted than I am. Like I'm very much extrovert. I can talk anytime. And it was really a conversation of, hey, how can we do this, right? So if we're going to buy this brand, we're going to invest in it, and we're doing it because we believe in the long term benefits of happier, healthier, stronger families. Like this can't be just a part time thing, right? It can't be something that we just it's not a rent house, right? That we can kind of invest in, or a stock, right? That we can invest in, just kind of leave it. This has to be done. And so we sat down before we were bought it and was like, all right, we're going to need a team, right? Who's focused on it and who can really dive deep. And so we had a couple people on our current staff, and then we ended up bringing in another person who, that was their job day to day, was really to make sure that we are utilizing those resources to the best of our ability, getting them out to the world in the most efficient manner. And so we've been really excited so far. We've been the money couple for roughly 6 months, and we took the first few months and kind of rebranded a lot of things. And we ran into some technology issues at the beginning of the year with the ice storm and some other stuff, threw stuff off. But we're really excited, rolling out a lot of great resources, expanding a ton of on the kid side. Obviously, my healthcare company deals with kids, and then I'm one of 9 in my family, so kids are always a big thing for us, right? And so, I'm a big believer, if you can teach them young, right, as they grow up, they're gonna remember those principles. And so if I can teach that kid, that wants to be an entrepreneur or one day get married or whatever else, that money's not the answer for everything, right? And if you, as long as you understand it, it can be a great thing. Then hopefully we're catching them on the front end. So we're doing a lot of that. And then through the financial practice, we've learned a lot about financial infidelity, where, one spouse is keeping information from the other. So that's a really big push we're doing as well. But we're very excited about the potential for the brand itself, the 5 money personalities, and the money couple as a whole. So yeah.
But it's such a natural progression, right? For somebody who understands the 5 love languages, right?
It is
to progress into the 5 money personality types, right?
Yep.
It's really it's easy, right? When you think of that progression, because I remember I read the 5 love languages actually first in a sales training.
Really?
Back in probably maybe 2005, right?
Yeah.
Right when I was first starting my journey, somebody recommended a couple books for me as an entrepreneur to read, and they actually recommended the 5 languages. 5 love languages, one of those books to read as an entrepreneur, for understanding your team and understanding people and growing people and those kind of things. It's not a typical entrepreneurial book, right? But
it's good. It's very applicable. Yeah.
I rely on it though, in many ways. So with the money couple, right? What's your vision for it?
Yeah. So our vision is really, honestly, just create thriving marriages, right? So over 50% of divorces marriages end in divorce because of money, right? They cite money in the vast majority of those. And so if we can get to the heart of that and catch people say, hey, listen, you don't always have to fight about money, right? And as you can get on the same page about that, and then we lead into some other marriage related topics, right? So the 5 love languages, and really being on the same team and everything else. So our goal long term is really to be a full marriage and family resource overall. So we have a guy coming on board with us who's a licensed family and marriage counselor, who's going to be help providing a lot of the psychological side of it as well. And so that's really our goal long term, is to provide some really great resources, and that you can kind of grow with as a family, activities for families, activities for couples, and really just try to create thriving, happy marriages. My wife and I teach a newlywed class at our church on Wednesday nights. And so we deal with this firsthand, these people who are freshly married, been married less than 5 or 6 years. And so, we see a lot of these same struggles that they may get. And I tell them, like, listen, everybody now that gets married wants to move into the same house that they grew up in, right? The same type of house. And they don't understand why at 20 they can't afford the same type of house that their parents have.
Hey, Taylor, your mic disappeared. I mean, I can hear you, but it's almost really quiet. My guys will just cut and we'll go right back in. But
okay.
Oh, you're good now. Good now.
Yeah. Maybe I was moving my hands. I was getting excited, so maybe that was throwing it off. Yeah. So long-term vision for the money couple is really to be a marriage resource across the board for whole families, create thriving, happy, successful marriages. And whether that starts, in the money situation, or, money is just a factor in it. That's really our goal, is to provide really good resources for couples. We want happy couples. So, yeah.
It's fascinating as an entrepreneur, right? So many of the marriage things that I've been through, right, become fundamental principles in my business. So like Boundaries in Marriage is like definitely a book, right, that I read that made, like, I'm constantly with boundaries in the business in different ways, right? And so I find like there's different things like what I'm trying to think of the name of the authors, Henry Cloud, I think it's Charles Townsend. Maybe I got the names wrong, but they do like making small groups, right?
Yeah.
With and that's been like a cornerstone of like how I run my business and different things. What are some other things like for me? The Four Agreements, right, is a great book. It's a little alternative, but at the same time, it's a great book for me. Is like fundamental principles. What are some different things for you? Like when you think about guiding principles. I mean, I hope the Bible, obviously is one of them for you, right? You lead groups in church, but what are some of the foundation for you?
Yeah, a lot of a lot of it goes back to the Bible, right? So I preach everybody needs to read the book of Ecclesiastes, the book of James, the book of Proverbs in the Bible because they're really just easy and foundational. And then there's other books that I recommend to everybody, like the Richest Man in Babylon. Right, it's a great book. It's pretty easy to read, but there's so many great key points in there that yes, it's talking about financial, but really it's life, right, altering. And then Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of those as well that kind of opens up the entrepreneurial side of things, of the opportunities that exist. But talking about boundaries in marriage, that's a big one for us that we've carried forward into our business. And so, like the vast majority of people that work in our office are all females, right? And so, like even this morning, I had a meeting across town that our accountant needed to go to as well. She's a female, and it just makes sense that her and I would ride in the same car and go over there, right? But because we've set these boundaries in our marriage, I don't ever want my wife to think, hey, like, hey, just cruising around town, this other woman, right? And so, we've made it a purpose of we always have, at least two people of the opposite sex, with us at all times, or not all times, right? But if we're alone in a car, and really, we've taken a lot of stuff from those. A lot of parenting books, of saying, hey, this is how we can interact with kids. Even go back to the 5 love languages. If I know what's driving and motivating that employee is really, really key. I'm an audiobook fiend. And so when I was like 19, I started listening to audiobooks, went through almost all the CD books at my library, and then went to the town next door and got a library card there and almost went through all their CDs. And so I've listened to probably an audiobook a week for, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years. And so authors get a little hazy, books even get a little hazy, but I just try to consume as many of them as I can. And, there's been a lot of really good knowledge that comes from it. And I'm a big audio, like I said, big audiobook fiend, but I preach it to everybody. Like it's a great way to learn on the go, right? So in the car, at the gym, mowing the yard, whatever it is. And there's just a lot of really good principles, like from John Maxwell and some of his books. And I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
I remember I was spending time with the wealthiest, smartest men I knew in my 20s, right? And I had asked him that question in Richest Man in Babylon, Four Agreements. Those were some of the books that he had, and he didn't have a faith-based background, right? So a lot of his stuff wasn't faith-based. But I remember in Richest Man in Babylon with, taking your money and putting it in buckets and having your money in different buckets and different ways to do it. Like for me, it was exciting as a risk taker because it meant I actually get a risk taker bucket, right? And so now I know exactly how much I can go take risk with and exactly how much I can go have adventure with. So it's pretty interesting. For me as a person, with the money couple, right? It's such a gift to be able to help people through what I think is the most difficult conversations, the most difficult, relationship, right? I know myself, I've owned my own businesses for close to 15, 16 years now. But I still feel, even when I engage in a conversation with a team member, right, about money and finances, right, there's some piece of awkwardness with that. Even with my wife, right, the other day, like my wife and I were talking, I'm trying to remember what it was, but I'm buying a swimmer, like it's like kind of like a hot tub, but it's a swimmer. It has the jets and everything, right? I'm buying a swimmer, and we're having that put in and different things, right? And like before we put that in, she wants to have like trees trimmed at the house and different things, right? And she got a quote, I think for $700 for it, and I with our business being houses, right? I've probably have had 200 quotes on trimming trees in the last year, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good, decent price. But my wife being a security seeker, that part of her, but even just her money background, right? And even though Saver's not one of her top 2, it's definitely in there. And she's like, no, I want to get 2 more quotes and different things. And I'm just like, trying to figure out, even in that conversation, like the time in my mind, there's time waste there, right? So
Yeah.
like for me, everything's I equate math in my head nonstop.
Time value of money. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my mind like is a nonstop. Like I was watching the Elon Musk podcast, right? And he's talking about the fireworks, right? And his mind is constant fireworks. My mind's constant math. Like it never stops rotating on almost everything that's going on all the time. And I'm like, the amount of time you're going to take to figure out the next quotes equates to this. And I'm just using in my mind what is logic, and in her mind it is simply the right way to do it.
Yeah.
And so the right way to do it versus what I think is logic is to, even with our educated money personalities and our educated love languages and everything else, right? And I just learned to surrender sometimes, right? And in those situations to her money personality
type. Yeah, you have to every now and then. Yeah, you got to pick your battles. Yeah,
for sure. So for you and your wife, what is something that comes up a lot more than other things?
Yeah, I mean,
it might even be funny. So
yeah. So financially, like I said, we have very different money dynamics, right? Opposite dynamics as far as that goes. And so, we've had to really work on figuring out, like, it took me a while to figure out, okay, as long as I have X number of dollars in the checking account and X number of dollars in an investment account that she can see, right? Like she has access to everything, but that really, show up, she's happy. Right. She feels safe. She feels secure. And, it doesn't matter about all the, whatever other money over here, as long as she can see that. And so once we figured that out, that was great, because at first, we had all just kind of these one or two accounts, and she could see everything, and she'd see I'd go spend, X number of dollars on a new business or a new opportunity, that I thought was going to do something. And so it took a little while to work through some of that. And so even now, I come home like just before we got on here, there's a building in town that's an older building. It used to be a post office. It's 15,000 square feet. And I'm like, hey, I think we need to buy it, remodel the whole thing, make it our office. We can put a gym in there with a basketball court. Like, I'm all this kind of stuff. And she's just like, yeah. And so, we definitely bring different money dynamics to the table. And a lot of those conversations of logic versus maybe, the way she thinks it should be done versus the way I think it should be done. And a lot of
the way I think it should be done is always logic, right?
And it's always the most efficient. It's done, right? Like, I don't understand why you're arguing with me on this. Like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, our big one is the dishwasher. And so, like, I'm big on, like, I like the dishes just a certain way in the dishwasher, because it makes sense that, the thing twirls and, it hits water just exactly where it is. And she's just like, you got off the table, just throw it in there, right? Just throw it in there. And it's probably not that bad, but that's the way it looks to me. And so that's probably our number one little disagreement. And so we've kind of come to the agreement, like, hey, all right, I'm going to do the dishes. I'm always going to do the dishwasher, because if not, I'm going to think they're always dirty. And she knows if even if she does it, I'm probably going to come back and fix it when she's not looking. But yeah, we work
no
well
OCD
together
there at all.
No, not at all. I'm normal, right? I'm the normal one. So yeah. Even think like we've been together over 20 years, right? Like we would have some of this stuff worked out. And if you're, we're the money couple. We're perfect, right? There's no arguments here about money. We're great. So yeah.
It's funny. My wife and I, one of the tools like we tried, like when my wife was the household CFO, right in the beginning, right? So I just basically handed her all the money, right? And we grew and we started to have savings, and then we bought a house, and some different things that went really well, right? And then there were certain things I started to want, right? And I was like, I'm successful, we make good money, and there's just lifestyle things that I want, and it's fascinating because it was like, but there's none of my own money, right? And so so there was a time where we said like, well, let's just take, outside of our, core family money, let's take a certain amount of money and allocate it to each of us, to just spend on whatever we want, so we don't have to engage in that other conversation, right? But that was very difficult for me, because in my mind, if I want something, I'll just go make more money, right? I'll just, like, that was the flyer part of me. It's like, if I want something, I'll make more money. I'll figure out a way to make more money. I'll figure out that acquire. So that you're going to give me a budget was almost offensive to me in some ways, right? Because I'm a provider. I'm always very involved in the business, and so she's a provider as well. But at the same time, I was just like, yeah, like that was and later in life, maybe like 3 years ago, right? I started to look at things, and that was like a grind we had to figure out, which was very, very, very. There was a few moments in there that we needed time away from the kids to figure that conversation out.
Oh
For
yeah.
sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
no doubt. We kind of have the same thing with our various businesses. I'm not saying if you're the IRS listening, I do not use the business as my playground fun account. But we do end up acquiring more toys through the business than my personal account
Yeah.
because my wife is a safer security seeker, right? And so I really been wanting a little drone that could fly around my neighborhood, and video our kids and stuff. And so I was like, man, I probably, that doesn't make sense from a safer security seeker standpoint. But if I buy it for the business and we can use it elsewhere as a training, all right, great, right? And so, yeah, we've figured out a little bit how to work through some of those. But
I had one of those moments where it was a Valentine's Day, and I think it was maybe my first year of marriage. So we've been married 11 years now, not nearly as long as you guys, high school sweethearts, but it was that first year of marriage, and my business partner and I were at um I want to say it was like K Jewelers or something like that, right? And I'm buying her something for Valentine's Day, and I know earlier in that day I'd made a $10,000 decision on marketing, right? Just like quick, you're like, all right, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. No big deal. And I'm at K Jewelers, and it's like a $300 or $400 or $500 piece of jewelry, and I'm just like, do I really want to spend that much money on Valentine's Day and different things? And I had this epiphany. I'm like, what kind of jackasses are we, right? That we're like, this is a difficult conversation, and these are pretty weekly business conversations I have to make on a regular basis. So yeah, it's just pretty funny how you go through those jumbles over the years in different ways. We made it, through a solid hour. So I want to make sure that people that are on and they're watching, I want to make sure they have tools, right? We've shared a lot of great things. If people are really taking notes, there's some really incredible pieces for people to take away.
Yeah.
But I know you have some tools that you can give people. And I've, used them for many years myself. And so when I, started doing podcasts, I really wanted to share with people the tools that have made me successful and can help others in so many different ways. So you want to share, and we'll put it in the description and different things so people can easily click on them and stuff, but just kind of share like some of the tools and things you want to share with people, Taylor, because I think if they don't have them, they can't take some of what we've shared today and put it in their daily life. And the stuff that you have to share is daily life stuff. So go ahead.
Yeah. So probably our number one tool is the 5 money personalities assessment, right? So it's found at themoneycouple.com. It's really easy to click on and go through it. I mean, most people can complete it in 3 to 5 minutes. And it's just a series of questions that are really designed to tell you how you think about money, right? How you feel about it. And it's part of your DNA, basically. And so, we really encourage every couple, for the husband and wife, to go take that assessment. It does a world of good. The results page actually is tailored to you based upon your money personalities and your combination of money personalities. And then from there, we lead into several other things. So we have, I think we have 3 books rolling out within the next month, right? So we've revamped the 5 money personalities book. We have a workbook coming out with it and a course that people can take to kind of get that foundation of really the money relationship, right? And then that will lead into our next course, which is really how to manage money. So it gets into the budgeting and how to really get yourself financially in the right spot. But we really believe it's core to know how you feel about money before you get into trying to manage money, right? And so we also have the financial infidelity assessment. So it can be financialinfidelity.com, which also goes to the money couple. But it really helps you figure out, hey, am I being open and honest with my spouse, right, about money? And so, if when I take it, I'm like, oh yeah, am I really honest about why I bought that drone, right? Or what maybe am I hiding? And then we're developing game plans, right, or life paths from those based upon your score. So if you scored a 0 out of 100, we got a lot of work to do, right? And so again, we have a family licensed therapist who's going to be helping create those courses and those resources, really. And they're all on our web. Half of them are on our website now. We're releasing more almost on a daily basis. And so that really helps people. If you know your money personality, then you know really how your money relationship or financial infidelity level is. You can really start a good game plan moving forward as a couple. And then if you have kids, we have the Money Kids that we're rolling out right now. And we have we've given every money personality their own little figure. And so we've got Security Steve and Spender Sophie. No, Spender. Sophie Spender. Sorry, I know I had those flip around. And they're just really cute. They're designed for kids, right? To kind of give them a visual of what that kid is. And we have coloring sheets, and we're rolling out weekly plans for families. So I'm very excited about this, where you would get an email or something in the mail every week that you and your family can kind of go through as a family, that teaches you more about money and money personalities, and then budgeting and everything else. And so those will be rolling out very, very soon. So I'm excited about those. That's one that we're developing in conjunction with like our kids. We have a private tutor for our kids who's in school for years, who's creating those, and we're testing them with our own kids right first, to make sure they're fun and exciting, and it's not something where parents have to go study for 3 hours. Right. It's I don't know if you've done any of the meal home delivery kits, but it's like that, right? You open up, here's the instructions, and you guys go, and there's activities and everything else. And so there's just a ton of resources at themoneycouple.com. And then we also have our Facebook group, which is a closed Facebook group, but anybody can join it, where we're giving real life tips and tricks, and you can interact with other couples who are on the same journey as you are. And so there's a ton of opportunities like that in order to get those resources into your hands and run with them. And honestly, our goal is to help other people become their own money couple, right? So the long-term vision is, hey, you're the money couple of, Nacogdoches, Texas, or you're the money couple of your neighborhood or of your church, and kind of setting that standard moving forward. And so that's really our long-term vision, and we're excited about it. I mean, I wish I could tell you, I wish I could show it all to you right now, because it's awesome. But we're literally releasing new things on themoneycouple.com every day. So yeah, definitely check them out.
That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations on such a great journey, and it's such a powerful message you guys have to share with people. And, being a thought leader myself, and sharing, investment knowledge and investment ideas and investment concepts and techniques with people. I think the interesting part is people so often go and seek like the vehicle, right? They want to, whether it's real estate or stocks or, starting a business or a franchise or something else, right? But they don't have a foundation of understanding of money and understanding of what it takes to be solid. And so what happens when they start a business or they start growing a business, those things that leak, or those holes that they have, really stand in their way of being successful more than they would realize. And, for them in their minds, lots of times it's marketing and sales, or it's, customer base or different things. But, it's funny how much money allocation or how money is used, as a part of that growth and the balance and the equilibrium in order to take a business to the level it needs to go to, is fundamental. I think, last thing I think is people out there, and, as we do these podcasts, right, people are going to see clips, right? They see lots of clips, and that's, people probably see more clips than they ever watch a whole podcast, right?
Oh yeah.
With what's going on in the world today, right? We started our survivalist project. We bought an income producing farm as a part of our investment fund, which is really cool. And doing really well for us. We made that adjustment based on things that are going on, in the world for you. What are your thoughts on, all the things going on in the world, and, why Californians are moving to Texas, and they just need to keep voting the way Texans vote. But,
that would be ideal. Yeah. Please tell them, right? Please tell them vote the way Texans do. Yeah. Okay. I think, if you open your eyes and you actually watch the news and you look, there's a shift occurring, and no one knows, right, if it's a end of the world scenario, right, or what that's going to look like. But we can definitely, we can say without a doubt, 5 years from now, the world's going to look very differently probably than it does right now, either via currency or anything else. So I used to have, back when, cell phones were really coming out a few years ago, we used to preach the 3G plan in our investment firm, right? God, guns, and gold, right? If you got those three, you're good, you're set. And so I haven't figured out the 5G plan yet. I'm still working on what goes on the other two. And it worked really good then. Now it's just kind of corny, but I still use it, obviously. And so, no, we're big believers in investing really in what you know and where your heart is. And so, just like you guys, buying a working farm, right, as part of that long-term just in case, right? I always tell people, don't put 100% of your money in that stuff, right? I mean, because you don't know. Same thing with Bitcoin. Yeah, it's made money, but at the end of the day, like I'm not gonna put 100% of my money into Bitcoin. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
It'd be insanity. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be insanity. And so, use a small percentage of that, of your income or whatever that is.
There are times though when Bitcoins I sold from about 6 or 7 years ago, I kind of disappointed that I sold those Bitcoins 6 or 7 years ago with the current value.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 2020. I wish I would have put it in, everything.
I'm glad for the money I made 6 or 7 years ago when I sold them, but I'd still like to own those though now today. But
oh yeah, it's a different story. But I think a lot of people now, I preach people, hey, use the resources that are available on the internet. It's chock full of resources that are out there that can really give you a lot of great information. Even for us with the 5 money personalities, like I use it in our interviews now. So if we bring anybody in a leadership position, I want to know what their 5 money personalities, what their money personalities are, because in a COO type role, I may want somebody who's a little bit of a risk taker in my CEO role, but my CFO role, I want you to be a savers, like we need a pretty good mix. And so I think using those resources and just staying abreast of latest news and, just not, it's easy to buy into the latest fad. And I think if you just keep your head on straight and think through things logically, I think you're going to be good. So, yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing today, Taylor. Any last things, you'd love to share with people that you think are great? I mean, people go to themoneycouple.com, right? It's a resource my wife and I've used for years and years. I think it's fun assessment tool. I've shared the Money Couple with my tribe for probably close to I want to say 7 or 8 years.
Thank you.
Say at least 6 or 7 years,
Awesome.
And Scott and Bethany had spoke at some of our trainings and different things over the years, which is cool. And great couple. And they were so passionate about other things that I'm very excited that someone whose full passion is all in on the Money Couple, right, is going to grow this to the message out to the the nation that it needs to. So but anything else you want to share?
Honestly, for us, it just goes back. If you're married and you want to have a great marriage, it's your choice, right? No one can make you happy except for yourself. And so choose happiness, right? Choose to have a happy marriage, and don't be embarrassed about going to marriage counseling. Don't be embarrassed about finding resources and sharing those resources, right? My wife and I, knock on wood, I think we have a really great relationship, but we still go to a marriage retreat every other year or so and read books together. And I mean, we're the Money Couple and we still read financial books together. I mean, we're always trying to learn together. And we're not embarrassed to say, hey, we're on the same team, right? I'm not going to go talk negatively about my spouse somewhere else. It's her and I versus the world. And honestly, it all kind of comes down to, my wife has a favorite quote that is basically,
don't screw it up.
Well, I know I'm not going blank on this. Comparison is the thief of joy. You're going to have to cut that part out, right? Give me that, right? So my wife's favorite quote is really comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that's really important, right? We look at social media and we look at the, Instagram all day and nobody's posting their failures, right? It's always the glorious parts. And so comparison is the thief of joy. If the stuff doesn't make you happy, if it's not making you happy looking at those Instagram pictures, unfollow them, right? Like no one's making you follow those people or be part of it. And so choose happiness and treat other people the way you want to be treated. And it turns out it makes for a pretty good life.
Well, I always think my wife and I've always done counseling of some form, right, in our marriage. But I'm trying to get my father-in-law to go to marriage counseling with me right now. So that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But I
want to hear how that goes. Yeah, let me know. I'd like to hear how that goes.
Yeah, that one goes. Yeah. I always tell my wife, I said, you know what? Compared to where my parents would have been if they hadn't passed away, I said, your parents are truly a blessing. So I said, but you'll never know what it's like to deal with in-laws. So I always.
Oh, there you go. That's funny.
All right, brother. Well, that's it for today. We'll cut up a great podcast. We'll send you guys, clips and different things. But it was fun, man.
It was, man. I'd love to stay in touch, man. Next time you're in Houston, give me a shot. I'd love to go have lunch or dinner or whatever. So.